You know that feeling, right? Like you're constantly just bombarded and you just want the important stuff fast.
hmm The signal, not the noise.
Exactly. That's what we're doing here. A deep dive. Today, it's into some really foundational wisdom, ancient stuff.
Right. A kind of direct talk, really, aimed at leaders.
Yeah, about why getting wise is basically job number one for them.
Absolutely. We're looking at an excerpt here. It's got this exhortation to seek wisdom,
Okay.
and then an intro to the praise of wisdom by Solomon.
Solomon. Okay.
And these aren't, just philosophical ideas floating around. They're framed as guidance, almost directives, for kings and magistrates,
Yeah.
the people with power.
An ancient power brief. I like that. So, our mission for you listening is to pull out what still clicks today.
Yeah, the timeless principles.
What does this tell us about leadership, responsibility, and, actually seeking wisdom?
Aiming for those aha
Yeah.
moments without getting totally bogged down.
Right. So, let's start there. Who exactly is getting this advice?
Well, the text is super specific about that. It calls out kings, magistrates.
The rulers?
Yeah, essentially those who hold power over multitudes. That framing itself tells you a lot, doesn't it?
It does. It sets the stakes high right away. This isn't just advice for anyone.
No, it's targeted. It's for the decision makers, the people whose choices affect many others.
And the reason given for talking directly to them, it's pretty intense, actually.
It is. The text says their authority, their sovereignty, it's granted
Granted by whom?
by the Lord, by the Most High. So right off the bat, there's this idea of, well, accountability.
Huge accountability, not just to the people, but to something higher.
Exactly. It's not just I have power. It's I have power from somewhere,
Yeah.
and I'm answerable for how I use it.
And it says that higher power, what was the phrase? Will probe their works.
Who shall probe your works and scrutinize your counsels. Strong words.
Yeah, no kidding. Scrutinize your counsels. So, not just what you do, but how you think, how you decide.
It's a serious check on power, a reminder that leadership isn't consequence-free. There's oversight.
Makes you think, doesn't it? What would that kind of deep scrutiny look like today?
And the flip side is also pretty stark. The consequences for getting it wrong.
Right. If these leaders fail to judge rightly or keep the law,
Or even just walk according to the will of God, as it puts it.
then what?
Then judgment comes terribly and swiftly. There's no ambiguity there.
Terribly and swiftly. Wow. And there's that contrast it makes too, isn't there, between the powerful and the ordinary person?
Yes, that's really striking. It says severe judgment awaits the exalted,
Okay.
but the lowly may be pardoned out of mercy.
So the higher you are, the tougher the judgment.
That's the implication. More power, more responsibility, therefore, more intense scrutiny. The mighty shall be mightily put to the test.
Mightily put to the test. That phrase really lands. It suggests that being powerful isn't a shield at all.
Quite the opposite.
Wow.
And it connects this to the nature of the ultimate ruler of all.
How's
It says, this ruler shows no partiality, doesn't favor the rich or powerful.
doesn't fear greatness either, it mentions.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Because he made everyone, the great and the small alike.
So it completely levels the playing field when it comes to fundamental justice and presumably wisdom.
Precisely. It reinforces that impartiality. No one gets a pass based on status.
And it hammers home that point about accountability again at the end of that section, right?
For those in power, a rigorous scrutiny impends. It's a constant theme. Rigorous scrutiny.
Okay, so the stakes are incredibly high. The accountability is absolute. What's the solution offered?
Well, the text shifts then to a direct appeal. It urges these rulers, these princes, to learn wisdom,
Learn wisdom.
and that you may not fall away. It's presented as essential for staying on track, for survival almost.
Not just a nice to have, but a must have.
Definitely. And there's a promise attached. It says, those who keep holy precepts hallowed will be found holy.
Okay. So living wisely makes you, well, holy in a sense.
And maybe more practically, those learned in them will have ready a response.
Ah, so wisdom gives you the tools to handle things, to respond effectively.
That's how it reads. It's about having both a moral compass and practical competence. Good judgment.
Mm-hmm. And what I find really interesting is how wisdom itself is described. It's not passive.
No, not at all. It's portrayed as very active. It says, wisdom is readily perceived by those who love her
So if you value it, you'll see it.
and found by those who seek her. It implies effort on the seeker's part is necessary.
But wisdom is also meeting you halfway, almost.
Yes. It hastens to make herself known to those who desire her, like it wants to be found by the genuine seeker.
That's a powerful idea. It's not hiding,
Not according to this text. And the imagery used is quite vivid.
like wisdom sitting at the gate.
Exactly.
But
Sitting at the gate.
Yeah.
Accessible. Right there in the midst of life, perhaps.
if you're looking for it with the right intention,
Mm-hmm. And it links focusing on wisdom, setting your heart on her with prudence.
the perfection of prudence.
Right. And vigilance for her, keeping vigil, leads to being quickly free from care.
So seeking wisdom actually reduces your burdens, helps you navigate challenges.
That's the promise. It guides you, helps you make sound choices, eases the pressure.
And wisdom is actively seeking people out, too.
Yeah, it continues that active portrayal. She makes her rounds, seeking those worthy of her,
Looking for receptive minds.
and graciously appears to them on the way and goes to meet them with full attention. It's almost personified, eager to connect.
It makes you pause and think, doesn't it? Where is that gate in our lives today? Where might wisdom be waiting?
It does. So, okay, if it's accessible and active, how do you actually get it? How do you attain wisdom according to this text?
Does it lay out steps?
It seems to. And the starting point is maybe surprisingly simple, but profound.
What is it?
The first step toward wisdom is an earnest desire for discipline.
Discipline, not just knowledge, but discipline. What does that mean here, do you think?
Well, maybe it's about self-control focus, the willingness to put in the work, to structure your learning, your thinking, not just passively consuming information.
An earnest desire for it. So it has to be genuine. That's step one.
Right. That's the kickoff. And that desire then fuels the next step.
Yeah.
Care for discipline.
Yeah.
You move from wanting it to actively nurturing it,
Right.
valuing it,
Okay, desire leads to care.
and that care, the text says, is love of her, love of wisdom.
So the commitment to discipline becomes synonymous with loving wisdom itself.
It's appreciating the process, the cultivation of it.
And then love translates into action.
Exactly. Love means the keeping of her laws. So it's not just a feeling, it's aligning your actions with wise principles.
Living it out. Makes sense.
And there's a benefit to that observance. To observe her laws is the basis for incorruptibility.
Incorruptibility. Strong word. Like integrity. Resilience against corruption.
I think so. Adhering to wisdom builds moral strength, makes you less likely to stray ethically. Think about that for leaders today. Huge.
Absolutely. And that incorruptibility then leads somewhere even higher.
Yes. It makes one close to God. It's presented as this upward path,
Starting with wanting discipline.
leading to care, which is love, which means keeping laws, leading to incorruptibility, which brings closeness to the divine.
Wow. And the final outcome of that whole journey.
Thus, the desire for wisdom leads to a kingdom.
A kingdom,
Wow.
literally. Or,
Probably more metaphorically, right?
Yeah.
A realm of effective just leadership, influence, lasting positive impact.
a legacy, maybe. A different kind of kingdom built on wisdom, not just power.
That seems plausible. It's quite a chain of consequences, all starting from that initial desire.
Okay, now the perspective shifts a bit in the text, doesn't it? Solomon starts speaking directly.
Yes, the second part introduces Solomon's voice. He basically commits to telling the unvarnished truth about wisdom.
No holding back.
Right. I shall conceal no secrets from you, he says.
Yeah.
He wants to bring to light knowledge of her from her very origins.
Uh,
Total transparency.
And he specifically rejects jealousy, right?
Yeah.
Says it can't coexist with wisdom.
Consuming jealousy. He says he won't travel with it because wisdom has not in common with it.
That feels intuitively right, doesn't it? Jealousy is about lack, comparison.
Whereas wisdom feels more about abundance, understanding, maybe even collaboration.
Yeah. And then Solomon really broadens the scope. He connects wisdom to the health of the whole world.
He does. That line is powerful. A multitude of the wise is the safety of the world.
Safety of the world.
And
Wow.
prudent king, the stability of the people. It directly links wise leadership to global well-being and societal stability.
So individual pursuit of wisdom isn't just personal development. It has massive societal implications.
According to Solomon, absolutely. It's crucial for the collective good.
And he finishes that part with another call to action, doesn't he?
Yes, urging people to take instruction from these words for their own profit.
Again, bringing it back to the practical benefit for the listener, for the learner. This isn't just theory.
No, it's meant to be applied, to make a tangible difference.
Okay, so we've unpacked a lot here. Accountability, the active nature of wisdom, the path to attaining it, Solomon's take. How do we connect this really concretely to you listening right now?
That's the key, isn't it? Because while the language is ancient kings, magistrates, the core ideas feel, well, incredibly current.
Hmm. That idea of responsibility coming with power, for instance, that applies everywhere.
Absolutely. In
Oh.
business, community groups, families, anywhere, decisions impact others. And the
Mhm.
call to judge rightly, that's a daily challenge for anyone in a position of influence, however small.
And the need for wisdom, maybe especially now with so much information, so much noise.
Exactly. How do you find the genuine insight? The text suggests it requires active seeking, loving it, desiring discipline.
So maybe for you listening, it's about asking, where do I actively seek deeper understanding beyond just the headlines or the usual echo chambers?
And what does that discipline look like in practice today? Maybe it's setting aside time for reflection. Maybe it's reading things that challenge your perspective.
Or committing to really listening,
Mm.
seeking to understand before reacting.
Could be all of those.
Yeah.
That earnest desire for discipline. Maybe today it's about intentionally cultivating habits that foster deeper thinking and learning, pushing past the easy answers.
Yeah. It's less about innate genius and more about intentional practice.
So wrapping this up, a few things really seem to jump out from this deep dive.
Okay. What are the big takeaways for you?
Well, first, that leadership, any kind of real influence, carries immense responsibility and accountability. That's crystal clear.
Non-negotiable.
Second, seeking wisdom isn't optional for good leadership. It's fundamental, not just for the leader's success, but for the stability and well-being of everyone involved.
The safety of the world, even.
Right. And third, wisdom isn't locked away. It's described as active, available, almost eager to be found by those who genuinely desire it and are willing to, put in the work, starting with that discipline.
That desire for discipline really feels like the key that unlocks everything else in this text.
It does. Which leads to maybe a final thought for you to mull over.
Okay, let's hear it.
In our world, absolutely saturated with information, how do you actively, intentionally cultivate that earnest desire for discipline, that crucial first step the text highlights? What gate, what metaphorical place in your life might wisdom be sitting at right now, waiting for you to notice, to seek it out?
That's a great question to sit with. Where is wisdom waiting for you?
Yeah. How can these ancient words spark a modern journey towards deeper understanding?
Something definitely worth reflecting on. Sometimes the oldest advice really does hit home the hardest. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.